everybody, and happy Monday. So you know what time it is. If you haven't already, go grab your favorite cup of hot cocoa, a few cookies, pull up a chair, and sit and chat with me a while in today's episode of Cocoa and Cookies. As a little disclaimer, let me go ahead and tell you guys this Cocoa and Cookies turned out to be extremely long. I'm going to go ahead and give you part 1 in this little episode right here. Look out for part 2 just a little bit later on this afternoon. I hope all of you guys had a great weekend. We, of course, had a busy weekend. Most of you guys know how jam-packed our Sundays are. If you had followed through with us in Vlogtober, we showed you some of that. For those of you who are new here and you're not aware, we do attend church that is 70 miles from our house, so we have quite a drive. And because we can't really do much of our church responsibilities during the week because we're so far away, that a lot of the stuff that we have to prepare and get ready for our Sunday evening youth services has to be done on Sunday afternoons. So we kind of run from the time we get up till the time we go to bed, and then we usually get home pretty late in the evening on Sunday nights, around 11 o'clock, maybe around 11:15 some weeks. So it pretty much wipes us out. Mondays are kind of hard to get up and get going because we're so tired. This weekend was even a little bit busier because we actually went down on Saturday instead of Sunday because unfortunately one of our friends had lost his grandpa a couple of weeks ago. So we went down to be involved with the funeral with him and to be with his family. So we've had a crazy busy weekend running here and there. If you guys tuned in over the weekend, you did see that I was able to get a little shopping in there. And so we had a little bit of a haul to show you guys. Nothing super impressive, but a couple of really cute things that we found. So if you didn't have a chance to take a look at that, you might want to go back and take a look at what we did find at Tuesday morning. We stopped at Ulta. We went to CVS and got some freebies there. Dollar Tree, of course, and Dollar General. There was just a whole conglomeration of stores that we stopped into. So if you want to check that out, feel free to go ahead and do that. But let me know, how was your weekend? Are you guys as crazy busy on the weekends as we are? Of course, I know probably right now most of you are, because if nothing else, we are on Thanksgiving week. So let me go ahead and say to all of you, Happy Thanksgiving. I'm not sure how much I will be able to be back on camera before Thursday. So if I'm not and don't get a chance, or if you're going to be super busy and might not catch videos later in the week, then let me go ahead and say that I hope you and your family and friends have a great time giving thanks this week. Let me know how busy you've been and what's been going on with you. I love to interact with you guys. As a matter of fact, I love it so much that my plan for next week's Cocoa and Cookies is to go ahead and start our live broadcast. I've been doing some research on that this past week and trying to figure out what kind of program that I need to get downloaded onto my computer and that kind of stuff to go ahead and get the Cocoa and Cookies up live, because when I broadcast live through YouTube, you guys will be able to watch along as it's happening. And if you have a question or comment, you'll be able to interact with me immediately right then. As it stands right now, when you guys want to comment or interact with me, you're having to leave the message on the video, and then whenever I can get a chance to log back on to get back to you guys. So there is just a small delay with that. And I thought it would be fun if we take these Cocoa and Cookies live so that we can actually communicate back and forth. I'll be able to read your comments immediately as they're coming in and then respond. So it'll definitely feel more like a two-sided conversation. So I'm excited about that. I've never done live hangouts online before, so it's going to be all new to me, but we're going to try to get that up and going. So be watching my channel over the next few days. Sometime within this week, we will probably do a test run to make sure that the program is working properly. And if so, then the plan right now is that Cocoa and Cookies will go live on Monday mornings at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. So I know some of you guys watch from all different kinds of locations around the country. Some of you even watch from other parts of the world. And so I'm not real sure exactly what time that may be for you wherever you are, but you can do some searches online to find out the time difference between me and wherever you are located. So it'll be 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, my time, and whatever time that'll be for you, then that is when we will be live. So hopefully you guys will be able to join that. I know that some of you do work and you probably won't be able to catch some of the live broadcasts, but maybe a majority of you can. If I'm not mistaken, there is an option on the program to where after the program ends, it'll save it and archive it on my channel. So at least if you can't join in live, you will still be able to go back and watch them later. And you'll be able to see how the conversations went. So I think that's going to be cool. We're going to give it a try. Let me know down below if you're interested in that and if you're going to be able to join us. I'm curious to know how many of you even want to join live. And if so, how many of you are going to be in a position to where you can join live. So today we're just going to go ahead and jump right in with the subject of homeschooling. Many of you have asked me throughout really about the last month and a half, I guess, about our homeschooling, because you guys did become aware through Vlogtober that my family is a homeschooling family. By the way, you guys, like this new little mug here picked up at the Dollar Tree over the weekend. That was part of the haul. Chocolate does always make everything better. But anyway, several of you have asked the questions about homeschooling, either because you're interested in trying to start homeschooling for yourself, or you're just curious about a homeschooling family, the whys we started, how it works, how we do it, and all that kind of stuff. So this is actually going to be a two-part video. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about it from a parent's perspective, why we made the choice to homeschool, how we actually homeschool every day, how it all works, the functionality of it. And next week, I'm going to let my kids join in on this conversation and answer some of your questions from their perspective. Because, you know, I'll be honest with you, from the very beginning, it has not always been super easy for them, and it hasn't always been something that they enjoyed a lot. There were times that they did miss being in a public school when they were smaller, but I want you to hear from their heart about all of that, how they felt about it, how maybe their views have changed, how they enjoy it now, and all that kind of stuff, because I want you to hear it from a well-rounded perspective, from a parent's view and a child's view. One thing I will say right off of the bat is that when we made this decision to homeschool our children, it really didn't matter to us what they wanted. And let me clarify that a little bit, because I know some of you, your hair just stood up on end. What a terrible thing to say. But it really is the job of a parent to understand and know what is best for their children and to make those decisions for them when they're small. Children are not born with the mental capacity, the understanding, the maturity, or any of that stuff to make their own decisions. And my opinion on that is that children just do not have the mental capacity when they're small to make the choices of what is best for them and what is not. That is a parent's job. So my husband and I made the decision for our children, and we stuck with it because we felt for our kids, homeschooling was going to be for their betterment. And so I'll tell you a little bit why. I know, first of all, when you mention homeschooling, most people immediately go to the religious side. Oh, they're just a bunch of religious fanatics. They're freaky. They want to keep their kids home, and almost a mindset of it's like cultish or weird and odd. And yes, I know for some people it can be. Obviously, there are abuses in anything, really. For us, it was not necessarily so much a matter of the religious side of things, but just the overall social growth and the mental growth of our kids in all spectrums, not just in religion and faith, but in everything, the way that you interact with people, morality, values, all that kind of stuff. The influences that were in the schools whenever our kids were little. My kids now are 16 and 18. One is a senior this year. One is a sophomore, and they have always homeschooled. Neither of them have ever been to a public or private campus. And we never use the word regular school. Like, we don't say, well, they don't go to regular school. Because what we do is absolutely regular school. It is the same schooling, the same curriculum, the same information that they would be getting if they were on a campus somewhere. So we have always differentiated between public school or private school and homeschool instead of saying regular school. So if you are thinking about homeschooling, that is something to always keep in your mind, because our words have power, and the way that we talk about our situation can shape the way we think about it. And if you want your kids to enjoy the process a little better and to understand that they're not weird or strange, then don't tell them, well, you don't go to regular school. You just tell them you don't go to public school or you don't go to a private school. And the wording on that really does help to shape their thinking. It's important what we are saying in all areas, but that's a whole different cocoa and cookies. But anyway, we had always talked about that when we had kids, I wanted to be able to stay home and raise my own children. For me personally, and there's no judgment from me towards any other woman out there, because every woman has to make her own choice and her own decision. But for me personally, I knew that my desire was to be a mom, and that when I had my children, I wanted to be the one to raise them. And that really was solidified for me when I worked at a daycare for about a year. After my husband and I first got married, I did work at a daycare, and some of these parents would drop their kids off to us about 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, because they had to be at work by 8. And then they would not pick these kids up till around 6 o'clock in the evening when they got off of work, and some of them would do a few errands and then come get the kids. They would get the kids home, get them bathed, get them fed, and generally by this time it was around 8 o'clock. They would get their baths and put them on to bed, and the reality was these parents were only seeing their kids for about an hour and a half to 2 hours maximum per day. And it had gotten to the point to where the kids would cry to go home. Like, they looked at us and they were with us longer periods of time during the daytime, that when the parents would come and pick them up in the evenings to go home, they would cry wanting to stay with us. And I knew that sealed it for me, that I do not ever want to put my child in a situation to where they are more bonded with someone else than they are with me. And that was just my feeling, my perception, as well as my husband's. We wanted to be the ones to raise our own kids. So we waited a long time. My husband and I were married 9 years before we had our first child. And we wanted to be in a position financially where I knew that I would be able to stay home. So we had always tossed around the idea during the time before we had started having our kids. Do we want to homeschool when they come along? Because homeschooling was kind of really just picking up momentum back then. You gotta remember, this was like 13 years ago when my daughter first started school, because she's a senior now. And so 18, 20 years ago, homeschooling was kind of just really gaining momentum, and it wasn't a super popular thing to do, but we kept hearing more and more about it, and we entertained the option. Okay, is that something that we want to do or not? Because my husband and I both loved our high school experiences, especially. I was a cheerleader. Both of us were in the marching band, and there were so many great memories that we had and so much fun stuff that we got to do in school that we really wanted to approach this decision carefully and cautiously, because we didn't want to just jump out there and keep our kids home if they were going to miss out on those kind of things. But then we didn't want to just throw them in the middle of those kind of things if it was going to be detrimental to them in other ways. So the final call came one day when my husband was at the high school in our local town. He was on the bike patrol at that time with the sheriff's department, and they had gone into the school to do a demonstration about police work and about the bicycle specifically, how you can police on a bicycle in a downtown area. And it was just really cool. They were going to show all the kids the bicycles, the equipments that they used on the bicycles, and really it was just a super fun presentation. It wasn't, you know, like they were going in there getting on to kids or really in an official capacity per se. It was just a fun demonstration. While he was at the school, he had several kids that had just been real disrespectful to him, and he was in full uniform. They knew he was a cop, and one of them in particular got right up in his face and pointed his finger at him. And of course, I will not use profanity on my channel because I just think there are much better ways to express ourselves, but he did. And he said, "F you," and turned around to walk off because he knew in that moment there was absolutely nothing that my husband could do about it. As he began to observe the behavior of the kids around him and what was happening in that environment and how they were doing, how they were treating some of the teachers that day, he made a decision, and he came home from work that afternoon, and I never will forget it, and he said, "No matter what it takes, you will homeschool our kids." And he just went on to tell me about the day and how it went. The teachers really, and it's even gotten worse in the last 20 years, but the teachers really were in a position to where they were scared to administer too much authority. I mean, you know, in the last couple of weeks, we've heard again, and we've seen on the news again, where these kids are getting so angry at the authority that the teachers have over their lives that they're beating teachers up. They're just really acting out in class, and really the learning environment in most schools is not optimal because the authority of the teachers and the principals and all of the administration has really been lost. And we knew that things were moving in that direction, so we decided that we were going to keep our kids home to school them here. When they were little, I would sit with them every day. I was worried at first. I was scared. I got to be honest with you. I was so nervous because I thought, I don't want my kids to miss out on any kind of information. I don't want them to get through the end of their senior year of school and not know general information, basic information, history and math, and you know, all the things that you learn in school. And I really felt like I could be possibly inadequate in that way. So through doing a lot of research, we found Abeka Academy. I will list their information for you down below, where you could actually order the whole kit. This particular curriculum through Abeka Book is the same curriculum that a majority of the private schools throughout the country uses. A lot of the schools use the Abeka Book program. So I knew when I found them that if I ordered the whole kit, the teacher's manuals as well as the student manuals, that if I followed their lesson plans that they gave me and taught right out of those books, that I would be giving my children the same education that they would be getting if they were attending a majority of the private schools throughout the United States. So that made me a little more at ease. I had never taught small children as far as like learning to read and that kind of stuff. And so I was pretty nervous about it. I'll be honest with you, because like I said, I did not want my children to grow up to be illiterate in any way. I wanted to give them every opportunity for education possible. So it was not a light decision at all. There was a lot of thought and prayer put into that. we did decide to go with that Abeka curriculum. And when they were very little, like I've said, we ordered all the kits in, and I just simply went right through the program every day. The lesson plans that they had for you, there's flashcards you buy, and all kind of teaching materials to where, you set up the environment that looks like a classroom. The only difference is they are getting one-on-one teaching instead of being in a classroom where there's 30 other students and the teacher is trying to spread her time between 30 kids. So we did that up until our kids hit high school. And when our kids hit high school, we decided that we were going to enroll them in the Abeka Academy program. So basically right now, our kids are like correspondent students through Abeka Academy, which is based here in Florida over in Pensacola. And they log into their computers, they do their classes via online streaming. So now they actually do have teachers, and they have a classroom full of students that they are able to watch and interact with through online streaming. What that means for them is that now the school keeps track of all of their grades. When they were younger, I would do that. I would keep track of all the grades and all the paperwork, and I still have boxes and boxes in our shed. We have kept every single thing our kids have done since they were little. And now, as it is, when they take their tests and all, I have to send them off to Abeka Academy. They keep all of that in their file. They issue the grades. It's a regular report card. They are fully accredited, and they are accepted by every major university and private university here in the United States. So that when my children graduate, they will be able to attend any university of their choice so long as they get accepted. So we made the decision to do that when they got into high school because here in Florida, and I don't know how it is in other states, I can only speak to you for my state. In Florida, when you are homeschooled, you have to take what is called the GED, and I think that that is pretty standard across the country. But homeschooling children here in Florida do not get to graduate per se, and they don't get a diploma. They have to go and take that GED test, and if they pass it, then they get the GED certificate, which nothing wrong with that in and of itself, but we wanted our kids to be able to have the experience of graduation. So we enrolled them into the Abeka Academy so that just like this year, when my daughter finishes up this senior year, she will get to go over to Pensacola. They have a whole weekend of full activities they do, and they have the full graduation with the academy, the cap, the gown, walking across the stage, getting the diploma. They'll get to meet all the teachers that they've had via the online streaming. And it's really just a fun way, kind of making that high school experience, quote unquote, more normal, if that's a word. Let me go ahead and add this disclaimer. Here in Florida, and I think Timmy's law was passed throughout the whole United States, but I know for sure it's here in Florida, that if you do have a homeschooler who wants to participate in, say, football or cheerleading, running track or basketball, any of those kind of activities, the local high school in your area has to allow your children the opportunity to participate. They can come and try out for the team just like anybody else can. And if they're good enough and they make the team, then they have to allow them to play. So before any of you worry about that social aspect or the sporting aspect or any of that stuff, at least here in Florida, you may need to